What do you do when everything you've ever known has just changed? Everything's just shifted. You've never known anything like this. What do you do then? How do you manage that change? Welcome to episode 27. Hey, who's moved my cheese? Glamping and unique holiday rentals are surging in popularity with the growing desire of customers to book holidays that deliver an experience. They are also the new business of choice for those wanting to improve their work-life balance. So how do you build a strong business like this that gives you the life you need and a great investment? I'm Sarah Riley, and I want to share what I've discovered after being immersed in this industry for over 20 years to inspire you to find out more about what's going on. Welcome, this is the business of glamping and unique holiday rentals. Don't worry, this episode isn't all about the missing cheese. But that introduction was a little bit of a hat tip from me to an author of a book. Sadly, he's not around anymore, but his book is, and I'll talk about that a bit in a minute. But, you know, there's no doubt we've all been dealing with so much change recently, from guest cancellations to lockdowns and furloughs and government rescue schemes and all kinds of stuff. It's just been a heady mix of ups and downs, and I've been feeling it. I know you've been feeling it too, but in this episode, I'm going to be focusing on a positive spin because I think there's enough negativity out there, and that is something we do not need. At the moment, I'm in my caravan out in the garden because I am obviously in lockdown in the UK. And so you may hear the distant rumble of the sea. I can certainly hear it. I don't know if it's going onto the microphone or not. I've got my dog next to me. It's a bit windy outside and it might start raining in a minute. And this caravan it's like it's got a tin roof or something. It's so noisy when it starts raining. But you know, I'm determined to carry on no matter what's going on, no matter whether I don't have the facilities that I need around me and I'm having to make do. We're all doing it. We're all having to get through this in whatever way we can. So I'm not furloughing and I'm continuing to work at the moment. I've got close to 5,000 business members in my community and many more on my email list. And so I believe this isn't really a time for me to be walking away on gardening leave. I feel drawn towards helping people, and so that's what I've decided to do. But it's also not a time to be giving out all the same advice that we've given before. Advice that is just sit tight and wait, because don't worry, it will turn around eventually and everyone's going to be wanting to have a staycation. You don't need to do anything, because simply we just don't know that. This has never happened before, and all our best guesses, we just don't know. We do know that this is going to be changing our guests' buying behaviour. We don't know how. But, you know, I've got a little bit of an idea how that's going to change. So recently I've been sharing lots of free tools and resources over on Inspire Courses to help people make sense of this and to try and get clarity over the situation, to find out what's out there that can help them, all that kind of stuff. So I've also been doing a lot of training and offering support in the Facebook group, because this is just a huge amount of change. It's really hard to deal with this. And actually, a lot of the comments that I've been getting from people who have taken part in my live training on my Facebook group is that they feel motivated and inspired to be speaking to people who are in exactly the same situation as them and to get feedback and ask questions and get answers, at least our best guess answers, because we really don't know. If you want to join in with that, then please click over to the Facebook group and go onto the educational unit section in the side menu, because I've collected all the different live sessions that I've been doing in order, because they all build on each other and you can go and watch them all over there. So that's If you do inspiredcourses.com/Facebook, that will take you to the group. Hopefully you're already a member. If not, request your membership and then make your way to the educational unit section, and that will give you everything that you need. So the brilliant thing is that we are collectively stronger together, and that allows us to support each other with ideas, with advice. We've been sharing official guidance that we found and other nuggets of gold that are really helping us all to implement what we need to implement to get ready for what I'm calling the tourism turnaround. Nothing lasts forever, not even quarantine, and so there will eventually be a release of lockdown and there will be a tourism turnaround. How that will look for everyone in different areas will be different, and everyone will be making their own choices. But what we have to do is to go in this with our eyes wide open. It's the only way we're going to be able to tackle this in the way that's best for us, best for our family, best for our staff, best for our guests, and best for our local community. So this is something I've been working on with the group for a while now, and I'm pleased to say that our efforts have not gone unnoticed. So today I took part in a roundtable discussion with the Right Honourable Amanda Milling MP and the chairman of the Conservatives in the UK, David Evanet, and I was very honoured to be invited to sit at the virtual table. And I was able to share our group's concerns about the lack of guidance for our industry and what we all need to be doing to be preparing for lockdown to be released and for the tourism turnaround, because there's good and there's bad aspects of that, and we really do have our eyes wide open to it. So we all realise that this is about keeping our guests safe, ourselves safe, and our staff safe, and our community safe. You know, all the local tourism business owners are very aware of that. So holistically, this has to happen together as one. So I was able to put our concerns forward and to make requests for what we thought might help us move forward in the most responsible way for everyone, and to hopefully get the help this industry needs, which could help to slow an economic decline in tourism and possibly a fall into recession in this country, which hasn't been confirmed yet, but there's a very good chance that this is going to happen. But the priority is that we must always act responsibly and safely, and that's the guidance we need. And we want, owners want this to follow. Everyone is in this and they've never been in this situation before and they need help. And that's what I was able to ask for today, and that was brilliant. And I've given some feedback in the Facebook group about exactly what we talked about and exactly the response from central government. So we're still here in the UK in lockdown, but we have reached the peak of cases and the numbers are starting to flatten out. Now, I say that in a kind of calm way, but inside, every time I say that about the numbers, it kind of makes me feel so emotional, because those numbers are people, their lives. So I say that in a way that, don't take me the wrong way. I feel incredibly emotional about this. This is a horrible time. So the next challenge for our government is to start releasing the restrictions without kicking us back into rising numbers of cases, because we need the economy to recover. We need businesses to recover, because that could also be a terrible thing for the country, the world, if that isn't supported. So the difficulty of the situation is not past, even though the numbers are apparently flattening out. But we are starting to see the tiniest glimmer of light at the end of a very long tunnel. So through all of this, I've been seeing some amazing resilience from owners. It's just quite unbelievable, the compassionate conversations about how owners are trying to support their guests, by arranging refunds, even though it's pushing them close to the wire in terms of their own survival in their own business. And then other owners, such as Kerry Roy, who has set up a Facebook group which promotes hospitality holiday swaps between owners, because they're talking about it's just really unlikely that some of them are going to be able to afford a holiday this year. So they're talking about how can they actually swap a holiday between themselves, so they can each visit each other's places, have a great holiday, but it's for free because they're swapping that resource. It's just really epic and so brilliant and really resilient. It's a really brilliant thing to do at a time like this. So I will leave the links to that in the show notes for this episode. So that will be inspiredcamping.com/027, as this is episode 27. So I was lucky enough to be able to attend a virtual lecture with Ian Golding, who is a book author and a global economist. In fact, it was his book that predicted the next financial crash would be caused by a pandemic. So of course I wanted to get in on this lecture, and I was so lucky to get a seat. So he predicted this back in 2014, which was pretty crazy. And he linked it to be to do with the pandemic. He links it to be in a way that would cause a financial crash. And this lecture was about his view of where it will go next. And it was a really, really interesting lecture. So a little bit about him. He's not only a book author, but he's the founding director of Oxford Martin School. He's the vice president of the World Bank. He's economic advisor to Nelson Mandela. He's the CEO of the Bank of Southern Africa. I mean, this guy has credentials as long as my arm. And he was talking about the ongoing risks of not finding a vaccine was really where, the risk really lay there, and all effort should be towards getting this vaccine sorted out. And I'm glad to say that it looks like lots of countries are doing that, hopefully in a way that is safe for everyone, because I know there are concerns about the vaccine, but we need to look at this positively. He also mentioned that we're only as strong as our weakest country, and that he's never known a recession like this because it's not just demand or supply that have stopped, but both of them have stopped. So it's really quite significant. But in terms of this industry and what he was talking about, he said that if businesses in this industry survive, then they will thrive, because offering what they do in this industry, which is experiences with our loved ones, is what we've missed most about this lockdown, about social distancing. It's about getting out into Mother Nature, hiking, doing all those things that we love. And that's what we offer in this industry. So that really is a very quick summary about what he said. And I think that while all of us are trying to understand what life after COVID-19 will look like, a lot of us are also trying to focus on what we can do to be able to hit the ground running. And that's what a lot of the discussion in the Facebook group has been about. What can we do to make this move forward at a pace that is going to keep us going as businesses when we're able to open the doors, when we feel able to open the doors to our guests. So that's when I started to draw on my previous experience in the corporate world. So I've had a corporate job before I started working for myself. I was working for lots of different cross-agency partners who had lots of conflicting priorities and agendas, and they operated in a changing world. It was changing constantly because of all these different agendas. So part of my training was about how to tackle change and how I could encourage partners to tackle change and that whole change management. And that's when I started to remember the book by Dr. Spencer Johnson, Who Moved My Cheese, which is an explanation about why I shouted that at the beginning to get your attention. So it's a brilliantly simple and yet profound book of how different people deal with change in different ways, and everyone tackles it in their own way that feels good for them. But the book tells a tale of 4 characters who live in a maze and look for cheese to nourish them and make them happy. So you've probably guessed that the cheese is a metaphor for, what you want to have in your own life, whether it's a good job, a loving relationship, or possessions, money, security, or a thriving business with lots of lovely guests. And the maze is where you look for what you want in our community, in your family, in your business, and so on. So it's a really interesting story, and it goes that the characters in this maze suddenly find, after years of always finding their cheese in the same place, every day in the same place, suddenly one day it's gone. It's been moved. So each day they return to the same spot and they find that the space is still empty of the cheese. And a few of the characters disappear while a few others remain, waiting for the cheese to return. So I won't spoil the ending, but let's say things don't work out quite how you expect it to. But obviously this is all about how we cope with change, and some of us adjust and adapt while others hope things will go back to normal. This is exactly what I'm sharing in my Facebook group at the moment, together with how I think we are going to see things changing for us. And it's about making sure that we're getting that into our heads, how we need to adapt, how we need to change what we're doing, how to pivot even slightly to tackle what's going on around us. And sitting and doing nothing is not the right thing to do. It's, that's the dangerous area. So some of the best quotes from the book that I've pulled out are that if you do not change, then you can become extinct. Now, this is a stark warning, and I think something we all need to be paying attention to at the moment, as so many changes are happening around us, not just in business and our economy and everything else going on in the world, but also in terms of, what we are feeling inside us, what our guests are feeling inside us, all that kind of thing. And the book also asks, what would you do if you weren't afraid? So this is a reminder that sometimes fear can be the barrier that we put in our own way. So it's like a limiting belief because we have this fear. So it's about sometimes tackling that fear head on and trying to overcome it and getting the help where you can to overcome it and to really, step over that barrier and move forward, move ahead. And also the reminder that old beliefs do not lead you to new cheese. And something we've really been discussing in the group is noticing small changes and how noticing those small changes early can help you adapt to bigger changes that are to come around the corner. So it's such a profound book, and it really applies perfectly to this situation. It's something my sister actually gave me when she was going through a great time of change herself. And it really did resonate with me at the time that I received it and that I read it. And so, it's something that I really think you should look at and read if you can, if you get a moment. It's a really simple book, actually. It's something a child could read. It's such a simple story. It's so profound. But I'm continuing to work and support where I can. So as well as the pressure we're putting on the government and the training in the Facebook group, I've also collected a list of tools, as I mentioned before, and resources that can help anyone who's feeling a bit stuck at the moment running a unique holiday rental or a glamping business. So this is dealing with stuff from the World Health Organization, so advice about cleaning, because cleaning is going to be such a big issue that people are going to have to be looking into for when they reopen. But also workshops on how to raise funds in ways that aren't traditional banks and to take action to prepare for a tourism turnaround. Funding is a big issue at the moment, and I was speaking to a specialist who deals with raising funds without going to traditional banks, and he very kindly did an interview, and I've given that to anyone who goes to that page. So you can find all of that over on inspiredcourses.com/tools. I've also put together a 2-day virtual workshop for those owners who want to work together to develop their messaging and approach at this time for their guests with their guests' new needs. It's kind of like a boot camp where everyone who turns up will be able to define the new needs of their guests of tomorrow, to frame their offers so they are irresistible to those guests, and to understand how they can get eyes on those offers, and also what it takes in, or what it will take, or is likely to take in the markets of tomorrow to compel people to book a holiday. What is it going to take them? So it's really interesting. So there's research that came out from Google. Obviously, Google has the biggest search engine in the world. They also are very involved in travel now. And they've done some research and they released that on how many touch points it takes for someone to book a holiday. And they suggested it's over 400. So this is 400 touch points on the internet in a digital way to decide what they're going to do for the holiday and, all the details of that holiday. So these are different touch points that we really need to be thinking through to make sure people are going through that easier and that they lead to our businesses in a way that we want it to, in a positive way, when the time is right to come and visit us. So yes, it is true that there will be more people unable to travel abroad. So a lot of people are talking about staycations and the power of staycations, and that they'll be looking for holidays closer to home. But, remember, you'll also be in competition with all those hotels that would usually be filling their beds with foreign tourists that are no longer able to fly and travel here either. So this means we can't be complacent. We can't sit back and say, oh yeah, staycations are definitely going to increase. There's lots of benefits to staycations, absolutely. And, I've been waving the flag for staycations for a very long time. But we can't be complacent, because not only is now the demand reducing in the tourism and travel industry, there's also the supply will be increasing. So, that is the perfect storm for problems. So in addition to this, when we're facing a declining market because many have lost their jobs, or they've decided to stay in quarantine for a bit longer because they're shielding themselves from the virus, then we also need to think carefully about how we tackle that changing situation. So, people are no longer going to be able to value or to see themselves being able to pay for a holiday. Maybe not as they have done in the past, thinking about having a couple of holidays a year, and a long weekend break. So we are going to see a changing market. We're seeing the guests changing and what they will want and need. And there's lots of reassurance because people are anxious, and this is stuff we have to get right. It's kind of like a game of chess. We need to get our pieces in the strongest position possible. And that's the reason why I tailored this virtual workshop to help. So it is a workshop, and attendees will be working on their businesses over the 2 days it's running. And people who work with me know that I share exact steps of what you need to do and exactly what's been proven to work, and my theory for why it will continue to work in the future. So this is not just assumptions, but this is based on what we've seen in the past, on facts and the exact methods to get it right for your business. So if you want to be part of this workshop, which is kind of like a boot camp, you're really going to be working hard on your business, then you can find all the details by following inspiredcourses.com/workshop. I'd love to see you there. So, sign up and we'll be working together on your business. At the very least, if you want to join us over on the Facebook group, then we'd love to see you. The welcome mat is always there. And the members are a very friendly bunch and an incredibly supportive and generous crowd. So make sure you say hello when you come into the group. So this is not a time for you to be facing these things on your own. It's a really difficult time and we all need support right now. There is a community of people out there to help you, so make sure you reach out. In the meantime, stay safe and keep washing your hands. See you soon.